Hey, good morning, everyone. Friday morning, 8 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Just going to wait to see how many jump on. Might be a few of you before work, or those of you on the East Coast who are chiming in. This is the first episode of our Stepping Toward Christ, 12 Steps in 12 Weeks Addiction Recovery Show. And my name is Jason Coombs, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. And what we hope to accomplish here is to connect with many of you who may have interest in overcoming any mortal obstacles and addictions or struggles along the way as we try to connect spiritually and try to improve ourselves and our lives. So where are you guys joining from? I see Becky McIntosh. What's up? How are you? I see Lori. Hello. We got some folks from Eastern Idaho on the other side of the state. I'm over here in Western Idaho in the Boise area. We got Utah. What's up? Scott, a good man. And Laura, hey. I appreciate you guys chiming in, and hopefully this gets shared. So the next 12 weeks are going to be pretty special. You know, these steps have changed my life, and I think that they're vastly misunderstood. Let me explain. I think many folks may ask or think that the 12 steps don't work. Maybe they've seen loved ones, or they've tried to apply them at some point in their lives towards an addiction or towards some area of their lives that they're trying to overcome, and the results were nil. And so I get a lot of those questions and comments or beliefs that that the 12 steps actually do not work. I also receive the feedback oftentimes that they don't apply to me. They apply to others that may be strung out on heroin or have a pornography addiction or compulsive overeating. For those people it works, but the 12 steps don't really apply to me. And I get that one often, that internal belief. I also you may be in the camp that you just wish that someone else would apply them. That I don't necessarily need them, but if I could just get him, or if I could just get her to apply these steps, then their lives would get better, and then our lives would get better, and the problem would be fixed. And those are three of the main areas of pushback that I get. Now, by way of introduction, I mentioned that I'm a person in long-term recovery, and let me make myself clear that I am recovering from many faces of the destroyer's impact on my life. You know, it's safe to say that I have battled with almost all addiction in some form or fashion. And each one has effectively blocked me off from the sunlight of the Spirit and from my ability to be present for those that I love, and my ability to turn around and help the next person in line. And the idea of any addiction or any struggle is that the destroyer uses them to disrupt our ability to receive personal revelation, our ability to be present and to live an abundant and prosperous life. And as long as he can keep us distracted, then he succeeds. And I was distracted for many years. I just realized I didn't set my timer, so I'm going to go ahead and set it now. I get so passionate about this topic that I will oftentimes go deep, and we only have 10-15 minutes here. But my hope is that over the course of 12 weeks, we can not only address the bigger, larger issues like drugs, alcohol, pornography, but also for those of us who have suffered with compulsive overeating, which I'm in that camp. I've suffered with various other phases of addiction, and the steps apply. And I'll get a little bit more into that as we talk, because with those three major concerns, let's just jump in. Those three concerns that most people have in and around the steps, that they don't work, they don't apply to me, and if I could just get so and so to use them, then my life would get better because they would get better, which is totally valid. When my parents were in that boat early on, when they discovered how deep I actually was in my addictions, and they couldn't rationalize it anymore, they couldn't minimize it anymore, they couldn't justify it away anymore. My mom sought for many resources, and she scoured the internet, and she talked to as many people that she could within her small circle of those that she could trust, which was very few, because most people want to keep that stuff inside. She had a real hard time finding resources, and she was unsure that the 12 steps would work for me. She was unsure that the 12 steps, well, she believed that they didn't apply to her early on. In fact, I think one or both of my parents said at one point, why do I need to go to these groups, and why do I need to work on recovery? Jason is the one with the problem. He's the one that needs to be fixed. Why do I have to go through this? If he could just figure it out, then we could all get better. But they learned over time as they walked through this process that their willingness to learn how to contribute the right way made huge impacts on my own recovery. And so there are three secrets that I want to address. And the first secret is that step one, which today is step 1 week, it's step one because it's the first episode, and the first step is about honesty. And the first secret I'm going to share with you about step one is that step one is not the beginning of the process. And I think that is why a lot of people think that the steps don't work, because they'll ask someone, their bishop or their parent or their pastor, or the courts will, invite the person to their first meeting, and that attendance, they may be introduced to the steps, and they'll walk through the steps to a degree, or be introduced to them at least, and they don't buy in, and so therefore they don't do the work that it takes to go through the recovery process. Which the recovery process is an inner journey; it's an internal stripping away of the layers like an onion, so that healing can happen. Because most addictions and most compulsive behaviors are rooted in various forms of deep pain in the soul, and it's a spiritual ailment. It also is a physical malady and a mental malady. So it's the mind, body, and the spirit. It affects all three, and you have to treat it at all three levels in order to overcome. And so the step one is not the beginning, because if you really think about it, and just take someone who has been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and they're morbidly obese, and they're sitting on the couch eating. Just visualize this with me. They're eating, a large pepperoni pizza, and they're drinking a 2-liter of Coca-Cola, watching TV. And they have gone through years and years and years of believing, first of all, it wasn't a problem, Then they started to see their weight change, and they became unhappy, maybe depressed, and they began to feel some of the physical and spiritual and mental effects of their behaviors and their compulsive overeating. But it hasn't been enough to get up off the couch and change the behaviors. And then, you know, they might have gone through the stage of, okay, I actually really do have a problem. My doctor's telling me I have a problem. I have a diagnosis now. I'm heavier than I've ever been. I'm unhappier than I've ever been. I've got all my family breathing down my neck to change, to go to the gym, to get a trainer, whatever the case may be, or just to get out and walk. My doctor's saying if I don't, I'm going to die. But there they sit. There they sit on the couch. And they're thinking about all of this stuff, and they're doing this, they're doing a lot of work, like resolving ambivalence and walking through the process that is required before one is willing to take action on any major life challenge. That's hard work. And a lot of that can't be seen or measured. And so by the time someone gets to step one, when they honestly work a thorough step one, which is admitting powerlessness, admitting they have a problem, admitting their life is unmanageable, it's saying, I can't overcome this by myself. I've tried everything. I've tried X, Y, Z, and I've had no success. I can't do this alone. I can't, no quick spin dry treatment center, no amount of promises I make to my family are going to fix me, because I've tried all that and I've failed. Therefore, I need something else. Like everything I have worked at on my own has failed. And I'm ready for something new. And that internal submission or surrender or admission would be the best word, that I actually have a problem and I can't overcome this by myself. That is step one. That admission of powerlessness, of unmanageability, and I cannot do it, is what step one is all about. But if you think about it, it takes years sometimes. It takes pain. It takes a lot of life to get you ready for that. And I love when I hear people, you know, make that admission early on, when they don't have to go as deep and as dark into their compulsive behaviors or addictions, to finally admit that I need help. And a lot of people do raise that bottom up, and they'll say, hey, like I'm just noticing I'm not as happy. I need to quit this. It might be caffeine. Like for me, energy drinks was definitely in that category for me. Like, this is affecting my ability to be present with people. It's making me a bit irritable. It's making me tired in the middle of the day, and I need another one to get back up. And you know, I went through the same process with coffee, when I was quitting coffee, and with cigarettes, and the list goes on and on and on, where the costs of acting out or engaging in that behavior or that addiction have to start outweighing the benefits of the behavior. And I think a lot of times people just think it's black and white, like, just stop. You're seeing all these consequences in your life. Just stop using, or stop acting out, or stop viewing pornography, or stop overeating, or stop throwing up, or whatever the case might be. And I think that that's where we are off base. That's where we miss the boat. And a lot of folks will say that in order to really work a thorough step one, you just got to go out and experience more pain. You got to go out and suffer longer until you finally admit that you have a problem. And I think that that's true to a point, but I also think that we're doing a lot of damage by letting people just suffer, when we can contribute the right way, and we can begin to minister to them in ways with love and light, and like I said, contribute the right way. So the other secret to the steps is that, to address the point of this doesn't apply to me, what a lot of people don't understand is that these 12 steps are the pathway to abundance. These 12 steps are the pathway to personal revelation, to divine inspiration. Going through this process of the 12 steps deepen any relationship and all relationships, particularly the relationship with God, the relationship with ourselves, and the relationship with others. And who doesn't need that? And I think a lot of people think, oh, the 12 steps are for those people that need to go to those meetings, and I don't need to go to those meetings. I wouldn't feel comfortable in those meetings. And I love meetings. I went to one last night. But I think that it's important for me to raise here and on this platform that the 12 steps apply in the quiet of our living room. The 12 steps open up that channel as we clean out our vessel by admitting that we as mortals cannot reach our highest potential without God's help. Therefore, I'm powerless. I need help. And I'm going to turn to that power to help me with that cleansing. And then we go through that process of cleansing that vessel, working with someone to confess those things, whether it be a bishop or a sponsor or whoever you're ready to speak with, and then going through the step 6 and 7, which is offering all that up and then making amends, and the growth steps 10, 11, and 12. And so who can't use that process? I don't know one person that can't use the 12 steps. The 12 steps have helped me in my financial life domain. The 12 steps help me in my relationship with coworkers domain, in my relationship with past bosses. They apply because they are the practical application of the atonement. That is what the 12 steps is. That is what they do, is they connect us to the healing powers of the atonement. And as we go through them, we transform. So whether you are struggling with biting your fingernails, or you're struggling with caffeine, or you're struggling with just being selfish or too much time on the phone, or if you're struggling with heroin or meth or pornography or other sexual compulsivities or any sort of eating disorder, the 12 steps totally apply. And to those family members who are watching who have loved ones that are struggling, who have loved ones that are trapped, and they're looking at it saying, man, I'm trying all these things and I'm not seeing any results. What do I do? And you just keep trying and trying and trying, and it's like beating your head against the wall. The steps apply. It's recognizing that I can't fix him or her. I can't change another person. That's only going to happen through the power of our loving Creator and through their own willingness to get to that point where they're willing to work step 1 and go through all of those stages that lead up to being willing to admit that there's a problem here. And now I'm willing to do what it takes to overcome the problem. And so that's secret number 2, is that these steps do apply to you, no matter where you're at, no matter what you're going through, and no matter what relationship you're trying to improve, or what goal you're trying to accomplish in 2019. Like, this is the perfect time to open up the 12 steps and begin that process. You may ask, where do I find the 12 steps? Well, there are various places you can find the 12 steps. They're adopted from Alcoholics Anonymous. You can get them on their website. In fact, we're building a resources page that have not only the church's information on there, but it's got outside resources, books, apps. There are a couple of new apps that are out. If you're familiar with Fortify for sexual compulsivity, Turn. The URL is jointurn.com or joinfortify.com. And sorry, I'm kind of getting lost in some of these resources. But the point is, I'm going to get you a resources page. Hope to have it up by next week. So tune in next week, and I'll give you the resources page where you can go find those links. But it's important to know where to access that help. Furthermore, and lastly, we talk about how if we could just get other people to use the steps, like my addicted loved one, or my husband, or my wife, or my sister, or brother, or coworker, if we could just get them to apply the steps, then all would be great. And you might be asking yourself, how can I influence that? And my invitation to you is that if you are willing to learn how to minister the right way, and what I mean by minister is how to serve others, how to be that voice of hope for them, and how to guide them through their struggle through unconditional love. I would take an area of your life that you want to change, and I would go through the 12 steps. Because as you do that, I promise you, all of your abilities to influence your children and your spouses and your loved ones will enhance and magnify. The Lord and the atonement will infuse your soul with wisdom and personal revelation to know how to communicate with those that are struggling, and when to be there for them, and when to call them, and what to say when you call them, and how to show up for them on a daily basis, because the steps are to be lived. These are not 1 through 12 and then you're done. These are a design for living, and a design to apply the atonement of Jesus Christ every single day in our lives. And that's why I'm so passionate about dedicating my entire life and my career to connecting people with this beautiful process that have transformed me, and the process has transformed my parents, transformed my siblings, and transformed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of others that I have personally witnessed this miracle happen. And some of their problems were huge, and some of them were smaller. And it works every single time if you're willing to apply it. So I really am excited about this show. Step one, if you're willing to just admit that there are issues in your own life, areas that you would like to fine tune, that right there counts. That's good enough. Now, stay with me throughout the rest of this journey each week, and we're going to dive into how to actually apply that power, how to access the power, and how to apply that power so that you can experience this transcending influence of the 12 steps, which are the practical application of the atonement. So thanks for tuning in, you guys. I also would love any questions that you have, because I want this to be very interactive. I want to know what your interests are. The whole point of having a show is to have consistency and continuity, and I'd like to use each show to address your specific needs. This show is catered to those that I've been asking questions, and those were the struggles that they had, that I attempted to address today. And so whatever you got cooking in your mind, like, please throw them down in a comment, because I will go through and I'll read them, and throughout the process, I promise you I will address each and every question, and provide you the resources on the landing page as soon as that's ready, which hopefully will be by next week. So I want to thank High Five Live for allowing me to use this platform to share my experience, strength, and hope. And I don't speak for the church. I don't speak for High Five Live. I don't speak for any organization. This is just me, and I'm just hoping to minister and help some folks. This is my step 12. you know, how to give back and how to carry the message to others and to deepen your experience with the steps and connect you to Jesus Christ and allow you to overcome any struggle that you have. Anyway, I hope you have a great weekend, and please share this, because I know that there are other people suffering and silent, and they may never know how to access the help. So anyway, sorry I've gone long, 25 minutes. Try to keep it shorter next week. Anyway, thanks you guys.